Okay, pre-cal. Continuing on in Unit 2, we are going to be looking at dividing polynomials, and there's two ways we do this. We're going to use long division and synthetic division. So we're going to start with synthetic division. It's easier than long division is. So if you'll notice here, I've got this polynomial in example 1 divided by this polynomial. Synthetic division works great when your coefficient of what you're dividing by, your coefficient is a 1. All right? If you've got something like down here on example 5 where this is 3x plus 1, not ideal. We're not going to use synthetic division for those because of this 3 right here. It messes things up. All right, so how do we do synthetic division? Whatever we're dividing by, that is the x minus 2, we're going to set this equal to 0. And then what we're going to do with that value, we're going to write it and put it in a little corner. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at what we're dividing, and we're going to look at each of the coefficients with their signs, and we're going to write those next to the 2. So this is 1x cubed, so I'm going to write a 1. This is negative 1x squared, so negative 1. This is positive 2, and this is positive 4. Then what I'm going to do is make some space, so I'm just going to drop down a little bit below my numbers, and I'm going to draw a line. Okay, now what I'm going to do, this is the way we're always going to do this. We're going to drop this first number down, whatever that is. If that had been a 3, a 7, whatever, it would be down here. So that comes down here. All right, so now what do we do? Well, here's the process. I'm going to use a different color to illustrate this. What I do now is I take this 2 and I multiply it by the 1. And what does that give me? A 2. And that's where I put it, right there. Then what I do, I add these numbers. So negative 1 and 2 will give me a positive 1. And then I do the process again. So now I take the 2, I multiply it by this 1. What does that give me? It gives me 2. All right, and now what do? I add the 2 and the 2. That gives me a 4. Guess what I'm going to do now? I'm going to multiply the 2 and the 4. That's going to give me 8. I add those together. That gives me 12. Okay, once that is complete, I now need to write my answer so that it makes sense. We need to communicate about what's happening here. Because think about it, think about what division looks like in general. Like if I had something easy like 6 divided by 2. Well, if I'm dividing 6 by 2, don't I get 3? Because isn't 2 times 3 equal to 6? So this x minus 2 here multiplied to something gives me this right here. So the something that it's multiplied to is this polynomial right down here. So here's what I'm going to write. Since this first term was an x cubed, this first term is 1 less than that. So it's x squared, 1x squared plus 1x, because there's a 1 right here, and then plus 4. See this number right here? When you have a leftover at the end, that is your remainder. So the way we write a remainder, and it goes over what we divided by. So that is our solution, just like that. Okay, let's do some more practice. All right, we've got this down here, x minus 1. So when I solve for 0, I get negative 1. Negative 1 goes in the little corner. I have x to the 5th, 5x to the 3rd, and negative 10. Notice that in this particular problem, I do not have an x to the 4th, or an x squared, or an x, but I still have to make space for them. So I always have to make space for missing terms. So I've got 1x to the 5th, I've got 0x to the 4th, I've got 5x to the 3rd, 0x squared, 0x, and negative 10. And of course, I'm going to draw my line, drop down the 1, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. Just like that. And what will my answer look like? Well, if this is x to the 5th, this 1 right here has to be x to the 4th. So 1x to the 4th minus just minus x to the 3rd plus 6x squared minus 6x plus 6. We have a leftover. That means we have a remainder. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, so this next one, we have x minus 3 here, so I'm going to set this equal to 0 and solve it. All right, make 3 in the little corner. I've got 1x to the 4th, 2x cubed, negative 10x squared, 5x, and negative 60. All right, so I didn't have any terms to skip on this particular problem. All right. So now I'm going to drop the 1 down. So 3 times 1 is 3. 2 plus 3 is 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Negative 10 plus 15 is positive 5. 3 times 5 is 15. 5 plus 15 is 20. 3 times 20 is positive 60. There we go. All right, since my first term is x to the 4th, this is 1x cubed plus 5x squared, plus 5x, plus 20, and we don't have a remainder. There you go. And we'll learn in the coming videos what it means when you get a 0 right there. So that is how you do synthetic division. And then in the next video, we're going to talk about long division.